everybody. Welcome to this first episode of 2025 Retention Zone. I'm happy to have with me someone that I've known for a while now and is in a very nice place, Chris Redmond from OTT Red.
It's great to be here, Carlo, and it's fantastic to be on your Retention Zone. You've had some amazing people, so I feel honored to be on your podcast. Thank you.
Yeah, the only problem is that everybody is now in with a bit of envy because of where you are. It looks like a very different place from the foggy winter in Torino, Italy. Where are you?
I'm in Dubai. This is where I'm located. I've got a fortunate and unique exposure to the market here in the Middle East as well as globally, but obviously this is where I am. But I'm actually here at the Creek Golf Club at the moment. This is where I tend to locate myself on Fridays with my team, and yeah, it's a great location. I had an interesting conversation with one of my colleagues this morning in Dubai. It's colder than it normally is in Dubai, and she said to me, "Chris, I'm sitting here with my fleece socks on." And I said, listen, don't say that to anybody in the UK because it's -8 in the UK and they're going to hear your victim story about fleecy socks and they're just going to think, what the hell is she talking about in Dubai? So yeah.
So you already said a bit, but tell me about Chris Redmond. How did you come into the streaming ecosystem?
It's an interesting story. So, I always say to people that I'm not a thoroughbred recruiter, although I'm the chief executive of a recruitment business. We've been going for nearly a decade. Actually, all of my experience before that for years and years and years was in telecoms. So I'm all about transmission. Since I left college, I'm all about data. And then years and years later, when I discovered streaming, when we started recruiting for Cinemedia 5 years ago, it all just came together for me, Carlo, because I was like, I get this. And actually the emotion attached to it for me was that all of a sudden I could see what was happening to all of those data packets when they arrive on a device where they're put together again and you get an image, a movie or a documentary or sports or whatever. I was like, streaming is the spiritual home of where I'm supposed to be. And ever since then, as you know, Carlo, it's been all about streaming and media, digital entertainment for me, and I love it. I really enjoy it. It interests me at many more levels than just occupational, income. And actually, the things that I've done, whenever anybody says to me, "Wow, Chris, how do you run a global community of streaming professionals?" I don't think you could do that with the amount of effort that it takes if you didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoy it. So that's how I've arrived with the OTT Red community that you've been a part of since day one, Carlo, and I'm deeply grateful for. And continuing my journey of education and seeing what happens year on year as our sector unfolds with the regional accents that it has.
You have a specific observation point, a fortunate observation point, because you're talking daily to many, many, many stream professionals in different parts of the world. What is the vibe? Because, I posted recently that if you look at LinkedIn, everybody's having a great time. All companies are doing amazing. I think reality is a bit different. But what is, occupying the minds of the people you talk to in streaming?
So the response that I'm going to offer you to that question has really got different regional accents, Carlo. If you look at the North American market, there's definitely a vibe within a lot of the people that I speak to there, and it's the biggest part of our membership that's growing in North America for OTT Red, where people are still suffering the personal exposure in many instances that they had to the massive layoffs that happened. And you see Evan talking about the help that he's trying to lend to people in the North American market. Obviously, there's some giants in terms of the corporate entities that originate from there. And, in the last few days, you've seen the Disney and Hulu type evolution. I think we'll see more of that play out as the market begins to loosen up and people need to find more innovative and collaborative ways, not just around legal challenges, but actually in order to liberate the market and start to get some forward momentum. In Europe, I think Europe is a hotbed of activity when it comes to brands that are fairly well established, that are HQ'd out of Europe, maybe not the big, huge employers, but actually a lot of the thought origination and innovation, I think, comes from Europe. And then if you move across to the Middle East has got an almost unique position when it comes to the macroeconomic side that it's got. There's a lot of capital available here. There's a huge appetite for technological development. 70% of the population in Saudi Arabia is under the age of 30. And so, therefore, streaming and a lot of the technologies that have been established in North America and Europe and other parts of the world, massive take up. And obviously, that creates a vacuum in terms of investment and incoming technologies. And particularly in Dubai, I see Dubai, I think I'm very fortunate to have relocated to Dubai 3 years ago, because over those 3 years, what I've seen is that the appetite to bring in new technologies, the prevalence of companies such as Byte Plus with their recommendation engine, CDN, all of the propositions that they've got. There's other organizations such as Think Analytics that are in some of the giants here as well. They're present, and actually a lot of the approaches that I'm receiving about activity for this year are for support for organizations to enable their market penetration to the Middle East. So, there's a whole spectrum of different things going on across our market in different parts of the world.
And so I saw, I think 2 days ago, a chart from Omdia that I will share now. So you will have a look together. We'll have a look together. This one. So one thing that I've seen is this Omdia chart and analysis that says, okay, pay TV is collapsing in the US, and that's the purple chart bar. On the other hand, if you look at global pay TV revenue, excluding US, they're not. So back to your regional accent. So I leave the chart for a while so people can digest it. But basically, I think you're right saying that there's not one story in streaming. So if streaming in the US is really taking the place for pay TV, and it's maybe not happening with the same maturity level in other areas of the world. I don't have obviously the region split of these numbers. It's also true that monetization of streaming is crucial. So if at the beginning streaming, and I mean, ideally everybody thinks streaming, thinks video. More and more, if you're inside our ecosystem, you're thinking monetization, right? Monetization of streaming has become the win or lose criteria for companies, for everybody in the industry, which means also from video, which is still very important, as we saw when Netflix had the kneecap with the fight some months ago. But really, everybody is trying to find what is the best way to make streaming sustainable. What are you hearing in terms of streaming monetization?
That graph is interesting to me because, if you speak to people, if you speak to experts in the US market regularly, as I do, and there's a lady called Kathy Rassenberger that I'm sure you probably know, Carlo.
Yeah.
Kathy has recently got into FAST as a format in the US market, and actually North America has been one of the most receptive markets to that as a route to market, as a direct route to consumer. So that probably accentuates some of the drop off that you've seen, the kind of pick up in fast formats, which I don't think in any other part of the world has seen such a quick pickup. Again, if you listen to opinions, one of the thought leaders to me is Marion when it comes to fast.
Mm-hmm.
She's the kind of pinnacle when it comes to what's happening. And she often talks about the contrast between Europe and North America as well. So for me, if I talk from where I am here in the Middle East about subscriptions, actually a lot of the kind of premium content in the Middle East is on the subscription-based platforms. And you've also got an increasingly apparent demographic influence to that as well, which is if you just take the UAE or Dubai, it's 3 million people total population, and 90% of that population are expats. So
90%.
90%, 9 out of 10 people are expats. And so access to content in their language, relevant to their culture, etc., is generally accessed through subscription, removing the influence of, there's a large influence of piracy out here and access to streaming platforms. But take that out, that's one thing. But even regionally, if you look at some of the regional the quality of some of the stuff on Shahid, particularly, and the investments that they're making to that. If you look at companies like Rise Studios that are making Arabic speaking content, even if you look at Dubai Bling on Netflix, actually this region is becoming prevalent not only in buying into the subscription-based formats, which I don't know what the stats are, but I'd imagine they're at least plateaued, like you saw in the rest of the world numbers on your graph. But it wouldn't surprise me if you actually start to see those go up more. Access to content in this part of the world, good content, I think, is largely facilitated through subscription-based platforms. That doesn't mean that the appetite to further monetize doesn't exist. It absolutely does, Carlo.
Because one of the a trend we've seen globally is the hybrid. No, there is everybody's done it. Prime Video has introduced a price to remove ads, and I think also the ads market is important. But what do you think about the biggest scary of the industry was the churn level becoming 5, 7, 10, 11% per month in some cases, with Netflix being again a leader with I think 3%, but still churn has been for sure 2023 and 24. Churn has been one of the monster word that everybody was trying to fight. That's why this thing is called retention zone. So, and in general, and it's true for streaming and every other subscriber services that there are around. Now, every AI tools has a subscription. So I created my own little app. You're familiar with those, to track my subscription. I have no idea what I'm paying. So it's beyond subscription fatigue. I don't know if you have any, anecdotes, stories from the people you're talking to around churn and retention.
Yeah, well,
the stinger in your place has gone wild.
Well, look, I think that for me, from a business perspective, agnostic of sector or proposition, it's kind of amazing to me when companies don't appear to put the emphasis on churn that I think they should. If there was one thing, particularly in a subscription-based business with a huge cost base, with the type of fluctuations that we see in streaming, I would absolutely be shoring up my fort by making sure that I had systems, processes, methodologies in place to forecast what churn might be and take proactive steps towards making sure that churn is minimized and the impact is minimized. I would do that strategically before I looked into further monetization, because the risk is that if you're churning faster and you're trying new formats, the risk of the experimentation is that you're going to create a perturbed response from your user base, and that might actually accentuate churn. And if you're not monitoring the churn, you're just going to lose those customers. So, I actually think it's massively important for organizations to have something in place. I actually, again, in this region, I'm not sure that the perception of churn is viewed with the same risk profile as it is in other regions because of the demographic reasons that I mentioned. It doesn't mean that I don't still believe what I said when it comes to the platforms out here and the importance of them actually getting something in place. But I think this is just something, as the key metric moves from subs to whatever, particularly on Wall Street, as we are seeing, subs was the main metrics for valuation. It's maybe no longer the case on the open market, but certainly for the providers, it is something that they should pay attention to. Sorry, Carlo, my tripod's just given up.
One of the things that you said also made me realize churn is dangerous, because if you have a lot of people coming in, so great acquisition, and still a lot of people going out, I think the loyalty become an issue. Because especially when you need to take decision, now you realize, like I do, that you have so many subscriptions, you need to cut something. Normally, it's not important that you are in the top 3. It's important you're not in the lower 3, right? So if I have 17 services, I'm starting from the bottom, right? So if you're my preferred or second preferred, it's fine. It's dangerous to be on the lower end. So it's crucial to keep a loyal base in any case, that even in hard times or whenever something happens, they still stay. I think that's a reasoning.
Yeah, I think there's another dimension to that, Carlo, which is people are becoming smart. Everything's subscription now, not just our streaming services, in our lives. Yeah. So many things are subscription based. It's just a de facto. If I look at my bank account, either for the business or personally, a lot of it is subscription costs, right? In our economies, business and personal. And people are becoming smart to it because of that. People are becoming intelligent. They realize where they can get in, and where people have got a more Spotify type model, They can just take the subscription for as long as they want, and then when they stop, there's no further exposure to cost. People are becoming smart to where they can get in, binge watch, and get out. And they're looking at it as a more obvious line item on their personal economy on a monthly basis. So I think you're
I'm still
absolutely
not.
right. The danger zone. The danger zone is to be in the bottom three. I think you're spot on with that, Carlo.
But I don't think I am in the smart segment of your analysis on the population of subscribers, because I'm still trying to figure out through bank accounts and cards what the hell am I subscribing to? Because I have this impulse of trying things, and then so subscription. I agree that subscription is beyond streaming now, part of our lives. So I had a question, to be honest, that I may ask you and then try to ask other people, even if the answer can be nuanced. If there is a persona, imagine an acquisition persona, a retention persona, and a win-back persona, right? Where do you think you are? It's a blend. I'm sure it's a blend. I have an answer for you. I have an answer for me.
You mean if I were in?
Who are
I'm an acquisition persona, 100%. Like I the proximity that I've got to so many organizations and the position that I've got in the market, being exposed to so many things, mean that nowadays I often get asked for input onto blueprints and strategies that companies are considering. I do think that the defensive posture has to be that there should be a system in place to defend against the impact of churn and mitigate and contain that. But similarly, it kind of surprises me that there isn't a more evident strategy and a more aggressive strategy, if I'm going to put a sharper point on it, to actually in the acquisition zone. I'd put another accent on that just finally, Carlo. I think that we're not so much in an age and time now where it's about acquisition. I would say conquesting, because actually a lot of the market is everyone's already got subscriptions, maybe too many, and actually what you're trying to do is win them off other people. If they've got a budget that they're prepared to pay for subscriptions per month, actually what you're doing is you're battling for attention, and that's real life. We do that in real life all the time. And so I'm definitely acquisitive, to the point maybe the next stage is conquesting. Like I'm gonna get out there and I'm gonna win it from you, but in order to do that you've got to have something better in your proposition.
So I think you reconcile with my view. I would have said that you are a win-back persona, because you're, compared to me at least, you're an hustler in a good way. You're definitely an hustler. So your conquest, I think we tend to agree if we had, I think I'm a retention persona.
Different words, same thing.
I'm a retention persona. I would be more of a retention persona because in the end, I'm a product guy. So having something that people use, I can see the feedback. That's where I think then obviously I brought in a lot of customer in the past. I'm definitely not a win back. That's why I'm not a sales guy. I'm not good at asking and asking.
This conversation is interesting, Carlo, because it makes me think again from a generic sector agnostic perspective about the different stages in the customer life cycle and the proclivity of different personalities and where they play strongest. And I think you're right. But what it does make me think is that doing something while you've got the client, when you spot behaviors, the customer in this case, where you spot behaviors where they might be about to churn, that's the strike moment. You've got to do it before they do that evening that they might only do twice a year, where they look at their bank account and go, oh my God, is this really how much I'm paying on subscriptions?
Exactly.
Cancel. I did that a few months ago on a whole load of things. Just sat there, took a few hours, cancel. You walk away with that great feeling that I've just saved us so many hundreds of pounds or dirhams. But the great thing that I like about advanced systems is that they do put providers in the position of being able to spot behaviors.
Yes.
To stop the churn before the customer even realizes that they might be about to churn.
Fantastic. So thank you. I love this final part where we went into subscription 360. And I have to say, I need to leave you go back to your beautiful place and either play golf or work out, whatever you want to do today.
We've, just to recap, my feeling going into this year might be interesting to share with you is that the last 3 months of last year, Carlo, were really busy for us at OTT Red and REdHolt. And I think that if recruitment is a good weather vane for any industry, which I've always thought it is, then the utilization of my team on assignments has demonstrably gone up in terms of its trajectory, which is worth sharing with you because it's tangible. And I think it's good for the industry to know that there's activity, there's appetite this year. And, hopefully with some of the volatility that we've seen around the world for reasons way beyond the influence of our sector, what we will start to see in 2025 is movement and growth. And, recruitment, I think, is one of the leading metrics associated to that in any industry.
Va bene. So thank you,
Good to speak
Chris.
to you, Carlo. My pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
Say hi to Dubai.
See you soon.
Ciao.
Thanks, Carlo.
Ciao.